Galt is not here yet. Joliet,
Here.
Lubes,
Here.
Nelson,
Here.
Taylor, here. Hoffman,
Present.
Spiz,
Present.
Gershenson,
Here.
Brendan,
Here.
or Johnson.
It's my name too, thank you.
They're both here.
Everyone kindly join me in
The answers to both.
tonight. Sorry. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just a friendly reminder to all of our friends in the room, that little box with the blue light on the ceiling is an extremely powerful microphone. It does pick up whispers. So if you have anything sassy to say, go ahead and say it, but it'll be on YouTube forever. I would entertain a motion to approve minutes dated November 12th, 2024, moved by Commissioner Loop, seconded by Commissioner Taylor. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Minutes have been approved. I would entertain a motion to approve today's agenda, moved by Commissioner Taylor, seconded by Commissioner Lubes. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Agenda has been approved. We'll now move into public comment. This is our public comment on anything on the agenda today. I suspect we have a few. Anyone want to start?
Oh, I'll start.
All right. Just state your name, where you live, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Tiffany Mason. I live in Royal Oak and I'm an employee of Parks and Recreation. And it's been made clear to us that there's no voting happening today on the Learning Care Group contract, but I'm here to comment on it anyway because I know you love hearing from employees, right? So I just wanted to say that thank you for your time and attention regarding the matter. We just don't have a reason to discontinue a contract that already exists with Bright Horizons, which is a provider that has a track record of high quality care and strong, honest relationships with parents. Last time this issue came before this group, Oakland County Human Resources said that the Bright Horizons wasn't perfect and they lacked in a certain responsiveness. But I hardly believe that Learning Care Group is doing much better in that department, seeing that employees and parents have had to beg for transition details through this whole process, all the while being told that there won't be more information until the contract is finalized. Even this committee has been largely left in the dark, only getting to see the contract in the 11th hour before it's set to be approved. The delays have been so substantial that parents have been told there's a potential that Bright Horizons might be kept on for an extra few weeks while the transition takes place. This doesn't sound like a great start for Learning Care Group's management, but why is any of this even necessary? Bright Horizons bid scored a single point lower than Learning Care Group's bid for the same contract, falling short in the area of nutrition. While Learning Care Group offered to provide lunches and snacks at no additional cost, Bright Horizons did offer food for an additional cost, which frankly makes sense to me because more services require more fees. How is Learning Care Group going to feed an entire school of students and for every day for free? And how are they going to prepare that food with no additional staff? Nothing is free and no doubt corners are being cut elsewhere. Mind you, this is for a service that parents have expressed is not a priority for them. Is it a nice amenity? Absolutely. But it's not worth this trust that we've established in Bright Horizons. The bottom line is this: Bright Horizons has been a stellar care provider. Why are we fixing what isn't broken? I'm assuming the reason is projected cost savings, which is truly sad as this county has always been an organization that listens to and cares for its employees. So thank you for your time.
Anyone else for public comment? State your name, where you live, and
Okay.
you've got 3 minutes.
I have packets for everybody if you wanna just take one and pass it. If you don't want to, then that's okay.
Yes, seriously.
Wow. My name is Chelsea. I work for Judge Warren and I live in Commerce Township. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to speak again today. The bid from Bright Horizons stands out due to its level of detail, including the testimonials from parents and children, as well as supporting letters that emphasize why Bright Horizons is such an exceptional facility. Bright Horizons, a trusted and proven provider for over a decade, scored a higher in critical areas like alignment with the county's cultures and DEI values. Yet LCG was favored for food services, something that Bright Horizons also offered in its bid. The selective emphasis suggests that financial considerations took precedence over the well-being of the children and the alignment with the county's core values. Parents were promised many benefits under the LCG, such as included meals, subsidized diapers, classroom cameras, and a seamless transition. Yet, each of these promises have either proven misleading or lacks clear answers. Cameras, for instance, are no longer included despite being presented as a major benefit. Policies like prohibiting outside food raise concerns about a child's dietary needs, which, while vague answers on diapers, limits and brands highlights the lack of readiness. Most concerning, HR's repetitive emphasis on LCG's multiple off-site locations suggests a future without on-site childcare. A move that would destabilize families, disrupt children's routines, and contradicts the consistencies that these changes lead to anxiety, emotional distress, and even trauma. Commissioner Taylor put it perfectly when she emphasized the mental stress a disrupted routine can cause, especially for young children. If the county's ultimate goal is to phase out on-site childcare, then honesty and transparency are essential for Oakland County employees, parents, and staff. Instead of abrupt changes, consider continuing the partnership with Bright Horizons for the next 5 years. This approach would give parents ample time to secure alternate high-quality care and provide the dedicated staff an opportunity to transition into new roles. Clear communications and a thoughtful timeline would demonstrate the county's commitment to supporting its employees for their families during this significant change. In a Detroit News article from September 2024, Commissioner Woodward stated, "I am proud of our determination to invest in our employees. I look forward to continuing to invest in our employees. These are individuals that make this county work. The services and programs we offer would not be possible without them." Commissioner Woodward's words, along with HR's emphasis on county employees' happiness and wellness and being the employer of choice, highlight the need to genuinely consider and prioritize voices and concerns of Oakland County employees and parents of Little Oaks. Now that 2 Little Oaks staff members have resigned and families face the risk of unenrollment due to staff shortages, HR's inability to finalize the LCG contract while Bright Horizons cannot hire in this limbo is setting us up for chaotic and entirely preventable crisis. Who will compensate working parents like me when we are forced to take time off because of these missteps? My family and many others depend on the exceptional care Little Oaks provides. The uncertainty is unacceptable. Commissioners, this isn't just about the numbers or contracts. It's about the children who find joy and security at Little Oaks and the parents who entrust this facility with their most precious treasures. I urge you to reject the LCG contract and continue with Bright Horizons. This is not about struggling with change. It's about protecting what's already working. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And putting the well-being of Oakland County's children first. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? I'll just start with your name, where you live. You'll have 3 minutes, and that little is the yes.
My name is Robbie Bilgren. I live in Waterford with my husband and my daughter Nora. Good morning, commissioners. Thank you for hearing the Little Oaks parents about the recommended change of providers. We appreciate your dedication to ensuring Oakland County families receive top-tier childcare and educational support. I have lived in Waterford for 6 years, and I have proudly served Oakland County for 9 years in the treasurer's office. My 7-month-old daughter Nora has attended Little Oaks for a little over 5 months, and in this short time, our experience has been nothing short of exceptional. As a parent and county employee, I appreciate the county's financial contributions to this program. However, the decision to transition providers has raised significant concerns and should not be handled as a typical contract, such as when buying office supplies. This decision requires substantial due diligence, transparency, and thorough assessment to ensure a provider change serves the best interests of our children and families. As a new mother, it is invaluable to know my daughter is in a place that prioritizes both care and educational growth. Our primary request is simple: a robust curriculum, skilled and caring educators, and an environment encouraging growth and exploration are irreplaceable. Learning Care Group has yet to meet with parents, leaving many of our questions unanswered, including their staffing plans or how they intend to manage this transition. LCG has said that they want to retain as many teachers as possible, but how do they expect teachers to make such an important decision with only a couple of months left before the deadline? Waiting this long puts teachers in a tough spot and forces many to consider other options. This certainty also leaves parents scrambling to decide if they need to find a new daycare provider. It is unfair to everyone involved, especially our children. At the October 15 LAGO meeting, a member of HR said, "We understand that change is hard for parents." That statement misses the point entirely. Without adequate, timely, and transparent information, this change isn't just hard for parents, more importantly, it's hard for our children. And the fact is, this change isn't necessary and potentially disrupts the children's routines, teachers' relationships, and learning environment. Oakland County has been clear about its mission to become an employer of choice, a place that retains talent and creates a supportive environment for employees. But the way this transition is being handled doesn't align with that mission. Employees and parents are not being heard, and the process has been frustrating and unclear. On November 20th, I emailed HR directly. The email was one line: "When will LCG be meeting with Little Oak parents?" As of today, December 3rd, I have not received a response. As a Little Oaks parent, an Oakland County employee and resident, I ask you vote no on the Learning Care Group contract. The county's financial support is invaluable, and there is a partnership between the county and Little Oaks family to give our children the best educational process. But that partnership is being strained by this confusing process. We need the information and time to make informed decisions about our child's care and education. I urge you to prioritize our children and their well-being over unnecessary change. Please vote no on the Learning Care Group contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, everyone. I'm Dana Redouty. I've served the county for 9 years, and I work at the Oakland County Friend of the Court. I've had my children in Little Oaks since 2020. I have 2 toddlers. I went through the entire pandemic with my babies, and Bright Horizons was the only daycare that let us bring our children into childcare, and they were the only daycare that had safety precautions and protected my children. My husband and I have grown a relationship with them where we entrusted them with our children, and they have by far exceeded my expectations. It really upsets me to hear that something that potentially is due to financial reasons, when there's not a big difference, has caused for Bright Horizons to be changed. I really urge you guys to consider this over strictly financial reasons. We have grown relationships with the teachers. My children know who everyone is in the entire building. They have shown that they have gone above and beyond all of our expectations, and I really want you to consider thinking about who's being put first. Financial reasons are our children.
Could you just state your residence? Sorry.
Yes, I'm from West Bloomfield.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else for public comment right now?
Public comment?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you do it at the end.
We do too. This one is on items on the agenda. Anyone else for?
And if you plan on speaking for public comment, or you did, there is a sheet, if you could please sign in. Thank you.
All right. Seeing no one else for this first public comment, I will move on to our communications. I would entertain a motion to receive and file items 7A and B right now, which are both granted application acceptances. Moved by Commissioner Taylor, seconded by Commissioner Spiz. I can voice vote that one, right? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Items A and B have been received. I would entertain a motion to receive and file item 7C. Moved by Commissioner, all of you, wow. Commissioner Erickson Galt and Commissioner Hoffman seconds that one. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And that one's been filed. And then I would also entertain a motion to receive item D and file that one. Do I have the motion? Moved by Commissioner Gershenson, seconded by Commissioner Spiz. Let's discuss. Commissioner Spiz.
Is there anybody here from the Learning Care Group? Because maybe this is a poor assumption on my part, because I was expecting an actual presentation today of this item, not just something to submit in my packet. I can look at this all day, but it doesn't allow me the opportunity to ask questions to them.
Happy to do that. I'm not from the Learning Care Group, but yeah. Okay. Adrian, do you want-
So Learning Care Group is not here today.
Okay. Did you want to speak to the item at all, or?
Yeah.
floor is all yours.
Was there specific questions, Commissioner Spiz?
Not that I have this at this point, because I was expecting him to go through the presentation, so I'll
Commissioner Nelson.
cede the floor to Commissioner Nelson and I'll go through a little bit more and ask more details.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. So it's been a long ride. I know, I appreciate the time and energy that's been put behind this. I know it's not an easy shift. Appreciate all the parents, employees joining us here today. The process has been nonetheless not the best. I think we all know that. I will say it's disappointing that there seems to be a pattern with some of the behaviors of how we're handling the process of contracts that I hope we correct, because I think we could do better when it comes to increasing transparency and just overall with communication with that. So with that being said, can we talk a little bit about how this item went from being a regular agenda item to now being a communication? I know there's been a lot of confusion with that. And then after months of reviewing pretty much all the documents attached to this specific contract, there's a couple things that jump out at me that I'd like to get some further clarification. As of late last night, I know there's been some communication that was shared in regards to the overall cost. What was the cost difference? And as of last night, from my understanding, the cost difference between the current contract holder and the Learning Care Group is, the Learning Care Group is $175,000 a year, and the Bright Horizons contract would be $440,000 per year. That's a significant difference. It's more than double. So at the end of a 3-year contract, LCG would be $525,000, and then Bright Horizons would be a little bit over $1.3 million. Given this significant cost difference, I'm hopeful that you'll be able to really use layman terms, would be appreciative, and just breaking down how we saved costs and why the significant difference. And overall, as I said, after going through all of these documents, reading from the early bid process all the way up until having both contracts, the current one, this one we're discussing today, the LCG group, it's definitely apparent that we're just shifting the cost of childcare over to parents. And I get there's been a lot of work and time put into this, but from a policy perspective, I think the focus should be on what we're doing in Oakland County to help offset the cost of childcare for our employees. And essentially, from what I understand with this now current contract, there is a significant cost difference, yet at the same time, the county might be saving money, but our employees are actually going to be paying more money in the long run. Well, for the first year, their tuition will be capped and fees will be capped
Sure.
at current rates. After that, the county does put a cap of 5%, no more than a 5% increase, which has been standard in the contract even with Bright Horizons. So there really isn't an increased cost to parents financially.
So at the end of the 3-year contract, costs, from what I understand of the current rates of employees at Little Oaks, with the proposed rates and the 5% increase each year of that 3-year contract, it equals out to be the same with the providers.
Well, Bright Horizons would also have increases throughout those years.
I understand that, but there are a 3% increase, and the Bright Horizons, the LCG percent increase each year is 5%. So there is a 2% difference of that increase. That total cost comes out of the parents' employees' pocket.
It's capped at 5%. They haven't set their increases for the next years yet.
Understood. Can we talk about where the cost difference comes from? It's a pretty significant cost difference. And it seems like, I want to be respectful, it seems like you get what you pay for. And there's gotta be corners being cut with such a drastic cost difference. And I would like to hear
what is driving that cost difference?
Chronically, Bright Horizons has not filled classrooms, and that has driven higher subsidy that the county has been obligated to. So I think part of the LCG model is that they anticipate better marketing efforts and actually filling classrooms, because the higher enrollment at the center, that helps to offset our subsidy. So it's not at the cost of quality of care, it's just right-sizing attendance at the center. And that's one of the challenges we've had with Bright Horizons over the since COVID, really. Everything turned upside down with that. That's where food service came off the table with Bright Horizons. And that's also where, enrollment kind of tanked. And then trying to get enrollment back up to capacity has been a real challenge, and no shortage of, it's been 2 years now of us really trying to work hand in glove with them to improve how they're marketing the center so that we could fill classrooms and make sure that our subsidy is offset to the extent possible and that we're serving our employees in the community to maximum capacity. And we've not made much headway there. So I think in the Learning Care Group model, they anticipate full classrooms and they're able to offset the subsidy by filling the center.
And so that's where the significant cost difference of almost double is coming from?
I believe so, and I can't speak to their, profit margins or what have you, but it could come down to how they, calculate what they need to recoup.
I have a backup question to that, if I may.
Sure.
In the contract, is there an out clause? Because my concern is if they're unable to meet what they think they're gonna meet in their business plan, what is their out clause? Do they have an out clause, or do they have to meet the contract for the life of the contract? Because if they're losing money, the businessman will just try to get out of the contract.
Well,
Which even puts a bigger
that's been the
burden on
challenge,
them.
there's no losing money, and so that's with,
No, but I mean, even for the Women's Center, they're gonna have that same concern, right? And they're coming in at half the cost. So why wouldn't we wanna be concerned with that? That is this business plan really sustainable? So my concern would be if they have an out clause in that contract, sometime throughout that duration of the contract, can they get out of it? Because if I was them, as a business owner, I would be looking to get out of it without continuing to lose money, which means the parents have to go through all that again.
So, yeah, we would have to fail in our obligations to them
So we have an out, but they don't have an out. Is that true?
if they fail in their obligations, we have an out.
We have an out, but they don't have an out, okay. Okay, I have more questions, but I'll go back to Kristen.
Thank you. So before I go into the last couple questions, can you briefly explain how we went from being a regular agenda item to being communication?
That was our misunderstanding of the contract process. I was under the impression that every contract with a new provider would come to the board for approval. And it had come to our attention fairly recently that that is not the case because the funding is already budgeted. We're not asking for any additional allocation for the contract.
and that we already contract for that service.
Given that we've already contracted for that service, I know it's a little disappointing that during our budget hearings, we didn't hear anything about childcare. We didn't hear crickets. So it was a surprise nonetheless to learn that in fact there was a line item under the contractual services. Is there any issues with the 2025 to 2027 budget listing Bright Horizons as the current contractor? I get that they're the current contractor right now, but
Is there any problem with that?
the appropriation of the $525,000 in the budget for 2025 to 2027 lists Bright Horizons as the contract holder.
That's because from October 1st and through December 31st, they are still the provider.
And we're still in 2024, is basically what I'm saying. So with that being said, from my understanding, there's been a fire review of the facility that was returned and needed corrections. From my understanding, facilities was still looking at that. Has that fire review been,
That has been resubmitted.
so it's been
already.
resubmitted? From the other thing, I understand that there's a waiting list. We don't have a licensing right now for LCG. That's a little concerning, actually, that's significantly concerning given we're at the mercy of the licensing agency. So with that being said, what plan are we putting in place over the next couple months? From my understanding, there was some discussion from HR in regards to asking Bright Horizons to extend the contract January, possibly into February, even into March, depending on the licensing. So what are we doing to make sure that there is no interruption to childcare? And then, most importantly, ensure that we can provide childcare. 2 teachers, it sounds like, have already left. There's some things floating around that there's gonna be more resignations coming in. What are we doing?
So with regard to the licensing and disruption of childcare, we have asked Bright Horizons to extend at least through the end of January. If they choose to not accept that proposal, Learning Care Group will temporarily relocate students at the Children at the Center to one of their local centers until the full licensing comes through here.
So I hear that, it's concerning because it's the one element I think that we've heard most loud and clear from the parents is that disruption of services. Consistency, familiarity, those are all really critical aspects and components of child development. So the alternative of what I'm hearing you say is to just ship the kids over to another facility, and when we get licensing, then we'll bring everybody back. Is that?
They are not able to start the licensing until the contract was signed, which was what caused the delay in achieving that measure.
And from my understanding, Bright Horizons does have an interest in potentially extending because they had concerns about their time frame for moving. And so we believe that they will be willing to extend because they were looking for extra time as well.
Has a conversation been had with Bright Horizons in regards to extending the contract?
I have reached out to them. I have not heard back.
So we don't know as of today, December 3rd, with the contract expiring December 31st, we still don't know if they're interested in extending. Is there a timeline that we should, an end date, deadline for the decision?
I have a call scheduled with them this week.
But all intents and purposes, they plan on extending. And also, just so you know, we've been in contact, regular contact with Laura, I think it's Laura, that does their licensing. Same with Walt Hersick has helped us as well, and that transition is moving. So we're feeling good that we'll be able to have that done in a timely manner so that we don't have to have that transition issue.
And has the transition avenue to a different center in the meantime, has that been communicated to parents already in regards to that's the plan?
That has not occurred at this.
Don't you think that that's a kind of critical component as hey, this is a possibility, heads up?
Yes, and I will be having a meeting with the parents.
My goodness.
Yeah, let's back up. There's a lot here, let's reframe. So a couple things, let's go backwards. So I heard a lot of frustration with Learning Care Group. I heard a lot of frustration with us, and I get that. So a couple of things happened to make the transition a little less smooth than we would like. We had a big major change up in purchasing as well, so it started there. That went a little longer than we would have liked. It's just the circle of life here in the organization. I think that one of the things that we're working through right now is that Learning Care Group could not do anything until there was a signed contract. And that signed contract has now occurred, and now they are working through all of those pieces, including asking the director if she is going to stay. And it's my understanding as well that a lot of the teachers will stay as well. And I believe that we're supposed to hear something like any second. So we're gonna be following up again with Learning Care Group again today, just to make sure that all of that transition is in place and that we know. Once we know all of that information this week, as well as making sure that the status of Laura, then, and you guys are meeting this week with Bright Horizons just to confirm it. All conversations with Bright Horizons have indicated they have every intention of sticking around until the transition has been made. Once we know more this week, then a new parent group meeting will be held with all of those details. I don't know if that's helpful, but.
I appreciate it. I will say, we've got Commissioner Lubes, I'm gonna put her in front of you, Commissioner Spiz. I know that the two of you, Commissioner Nelson and Spiz, could go on for forever, but we have a huge agenda today, so Commissioner Lubes, and then I would like to move on to our regular agenda, but go ahead.
Thank you. I'm quite impressed with the number of letters received from the parents, so thank you very much. My understanding from what I'm hearing and reading is the basic difference in the budget is related to the meals. Some of the concerns that parents have brought out that I'm reading today are the violations regarding staff from the LCG group regarding their background checks, developmental training. Has that been corrected? Is there any response regarding that?
Well, the background check issues were a center in Swartz Creek. And it was related to that particular center director did not have those background check informations, the employee files on site. We currently do have the employee files on site here. Learning Care Group fully intends to continue to keep them on site.
Thank you. So one of the other comments that I understand is initially they were gonna provide cameras in the center and now there are no cameras, is that correct?
That's correct. So that is part of their corporate-wide philosophy that it provides. It's part of the Sprout About app to allow parents to be able to see their children during the day. However, we as the panel thought that was a great idea. We heard from parents that a vast majority were not in favor of that. So we had negotiated with Bright Horizons that, or with Learning Care Group at this time that we're not going to have the cameras in the classrooms.
Thank you. And the panel of parents that you invited for their input, what was the makeup of the parent group?
They were all of the county employee. That's who we surveyed, all the county employee parents.
I think she means for the selection panel. We had the then current president of the parent group from Little Oaks. We had a parent that works within HR, and then our super.
No, in HR.
In
Human
HR.
Resources.
That's my Midwest accent. And then our supervisor of benefits actually just coincidentally also was a parent from Little Oaks, but she's the supervisor of benefits, so she needed to be engaged regardless.
Would there have been opportunity for other parents? Because it looks like a conflict of interest with two parents who work in HR and have children there.
Well, the supervisor of benefits, when the bid process was undergoing, did not have her children at the center at that time.
I don't know how input would happen if you didn't have a current placement in childcare. Okay, all right, thank
The
you,
president of the parents group was involved in the selection panel.
thank you.
What I will say, I think it's pretty clear that we as a board need to review and potentially amend how we do purchasing and our purchasing policies. This is, I know that this is not the only thing in our committee, but I know Commissioner Lubes in your committee, this has come up a few times too with contracts not having to go through for board approval because there wasn't an appropriation significant enough to merit that. So I think that we should have that conversation also. That being said, for the motion at hand, Commissioners Spiz and Nelson, do you have any immediately pressing things to add to?
I have two.
All right,
I have two last
two, make them fast.
One is for these three young ladies. Transition plan. Looking at the presentation that's in our packet, to me, it's just a boilerplate presentation that they probably give to anybody that they're trying to open a center in. I'm looking for the transition plan of our center and how it's going to affect the parents in each step of the way. Can we get that?
Yes.
Okay, because right now I don't see it here, so I think the parents would love to see the transition plan too. Second point goes back to your question. We are the board. We make the policy. In my opinion, we can pull anything at any time and vote on it, right? Yes, we have a purchasing policy, which we approve. But if there's something that is specific enough or important enough, we can pull that off at any time and have that discussion and vote on it. That's my opinion. So as a protocol, I think that's something we need to consider in this case.
What are you suggesting?
That's a motion, I swear.
Need to reword that motion, I'm sure.
I'll let Commissioner Nelson, anything else while he's
But you
thinking?
can think how to
While
put
he's
it up.
putting it together. Thank you. I think, I wanna be very clear, I don't support this. I think that if I had the best way forward from here, it would be to pull back and take a look at other options that we could provide, not just our employees, but their children. I think that we are moving forward with a lot of contingencies in place, and that makes me nervous, especially given that we don't have a transition plan as this present moment. For parents, the clock is ticking, the clock has been ticking. It seems that there's been a strategy of running out this ticking clock, which is why we're here today under these conditions. So I just want to be very clear and put on the record, I don't support this. I think this is a terrible move. And I know I did have some good conversations with the chairman of the board at really taking a look at not only our purchasing policy, but also to really having some more conversations about childcare and how we can still be able to provide affordable childcare for our employees while also making sure that we are partnering with them every step of the way, because I think that that has been the one missing link that we've heard now over and over for the past 4+ months, and it's disappointing nonetheless. I'm finished, Chairman. Thank you.
I'm ready for my motion if you're ready.
Wait, 1 minute, I have one quick question.
Fast.
What's the current enrollment and what's the maximum we can handle?
There's currently about 68 children in the center and it can hold up to 114.
Thank you.
Just piggyback it off of Hoffman because I'm glad that you asked that. Out of the 68, I know that this contract opens up to not only Oakland County employees, but Oakland Schools employees, by credit union, and state employees. So how many out of the 68 are actually Oakland County employee children? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep. Oh, we have not even started our regular agenda.
There's only one item.
In the meantime, Commissioner Roops, I'll recognize you next.
My comment or question is, the state has a licensing in fact that it's, I don't know what it is, 1 teacher to 6 children. So I think that has an effect on how many children are there and how many staff are involved also, so.
It varies by classroom if it's.
Yes, and I have 5 children, so I do emphasize childcare was always, who can I get to watch my kids this summer or after school or before school or, I am pleased for parents now that some may have the opportunity to work from home. In my era, we did not. It's kind of like stories of we walked uphill to school both ways, and et cetera, but
It
life
was
is
snowing too.
much better now, yes. But I have enjoyed reading the comments about what you have now is a warm, nurturing, and caring environment, because that certainly makes a difference in each child's developmental stage and how they will act as an adult.
Commissioner Nelson, as the end of September, it's been approximately about a third of the child population has been the community. They call it client and community, client being Oakland County employees, community being outside of Oakland County. And that's generally been about a third.
Math isn't my strong suit. Is that closer to 15, 20, 30?
So it was when there was a a client population of 75, it was about 26.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep, there is a motion on the table to receive and file. Did you want to interrupt that?
Yes, I do.
Oh God, why did I ask?
I'd like to make a motion, or I will make a motion to delay this transition by up to 3 months and to have a full detailed review with HR and the learning care group in this committee.
I don't know if I can do that. This is a receive and file.
Make
But
a
we
motion,
moved
put
it
it on
up
regular
for
agenda.
communication.
Yeah, I support putting it in the regular gym.
And then I'll make the same.
Putting the receiving and filing on the
No,
road.
put this topic on.
That topic.
I just don't think.
Because here, if I may, if we can discuss. My concern is because of a policy, it will not come to this board for approval, right? HR will just continue to move forward and go through the process. Based on the input we're having and the number of people in this room and some of the open questions that are still out there on transition plan, budget, et cetera, I think this board is obligated to take a deeper dive into this.
And I hear you. Sorry, Commissioner Taylor, followed by Commissioner Erickson.
I was just gonna say, from what I remember from Robert's Rules of Order, what we should do is vote this down, and then you can make a motion to put it on the regular agenda. But you just vote no to receive and file, and then you make a motion to take the item and put it on the regular agenda.
Okay. Commissioner Erickson.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. We have a motion on the table to receive and file. We can't be entertaining an entirely new motion. You can make a motion as to the motion that's on the table. Make a motion to postpone or something like that.
But what, I mean, I hear you, okay? If we make a motion to postpone for 3 months, what does that do? Because that still doesn't stop our policy
Right,
from
but
moving
no,
forward.
I agree with Commissioner Taylor that
Okay.
that
Whatever the
what
protocol
you
is,
should
that's
advocate
fine.
for everyone to vote against receiving and filing, and then you can make whatever motion.
Fair.
Yes.
I will rescind my current motion for the time being. Such a whisper, Nick is still here.
I'm not sure what to do. There's a motion on the table. My request for us all is then to proceed with our agenda and figure out what to do, because this is a receive and file. Contract is, it's in here, it's an informational thing. So that informational aspect, like, I get that it's a receive and file. For creating a whole new thing, I don't know what to do, looking for Michael. So my request is to get Jim out onto the road and move on a little bit. Is that okay? We can put a pin in your motion. Are you okay
I'll
with?
put a pin in my motion.
Okay.
Is it something we can have answered today?
I don't know. I love it today. I don't know.
Make it, I mean,
Oh, Dave's.
Oh, Chair Woodward.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I raised my hand, but it maybe didn't work here. Listening to the conversation, this is a communication in part because of the ongoing discussions that this committee and members of the board have had with HR around this individual contract. Two things. The receive and file, all you are is receiving the information that they received. You're not approving a contract, an RFP, a review, a panel, or any of that. You're just receiving the communication, this and whatever, I don't know if there are additional communication items on the agenda. From a purchasing policy point of view, and I heard Commissioner Spiz mention, our purchasing policy doesn't allow for us to pick individual contracts that have gone through the purchasing process. This went through an RFP, a review panel, a selection, dollars were appropriated. We do have in our budget making process, in our appropriation, if there are items that we do want pulled off the list of approved contracts or funding for approve spending, there's a time to do that. With the budget that we're operating under right now, where the funding for this was appropriated, no commissioners pulled any item off. So the contract's already been granted. So this isn't, so we don't have, the only option, if we were to pursue, is to execute the termination by convenience clause, which is generally standard in all of our agreements. But when we talk about disruption, that is a massive disruption. And so I would recommend against canceling a contract that went through the normal purchasing process, that was approved with dollars appropriated by this board as part of the ongoing the regular appropriation process. I get the frustration. Commissioner Nelson and I have talked at great length. I think that there are a lot of conversations that warrant further discussion, but there is a contract that has been approved, and again, I don't know what the termination for convenience language in this particular contract is, but to delay, you're not going to delay. I mean, the seeking of the incumbent provider to stay on is to allow for, the licensing process with Laura to continue, to go further beyond what the contract provides for, that was signed, again, in accordance with the purchasing policy, would be inappropriate. If we want to look at the purchasing policy, we can definitely do that. But again, this was done in accordance with the purchasing policy that frankly has been in practice most of my time on the board. And I think it would be inappropriate to flip the table over, given that we have a lawfully signed contract that went through that process.
Commissioner Singal.
Thank you, Chair. I was just reading the contract. It says the county may terminate or cancel this contract in whole or in part at any time upon 90 days notice to contractor for any reason, including convenience, without incurring obligation or penalty of any kind. So we're looking at 3 months.
So when was this, so the contract is formally signed? When was that?
I signed it in November.
November.
November-ish.
Does it make a difference if even if the contract has been signed, they can't open because they don't have a license?
I guess my motion was just to delay it up to 3 months to do a deeper dive into it, not cancel the contract. They can't, I don't know what the contract states today for dates, but if they can't meet those dates, they're in violation of the contract anyway, but that's a deeper discussion for corporate counsel to have. So that was my motion, just to delay it so we can have more details, more discussion. And I'm still overly concerned with the transition plan. I mean, what is it? Is the question.
We will have one by the end of the week. So again, it's just all of the different delays, they're all merging this week. And we'll have more information. We're not going to have one day on, one day off. There will be a transition plan with both Bright Horizons and LCG.
Can I, for the sake of all of us, because the substance of our discussion is one thing, the procedure is another thing. I'm in charge of the procedure. So since our next LAGO meeting will occur within both 30 days and 90 days of today, would you all be okay hashing this out? Substance, is it not?
We have another LAGO meeting before the end of the year?
Oh, Paul, it's been such a pleasure. Well, it's certainly 90 days.
Okay, behold,
November.
It's 90 days notice, so you have to actually give notice.
That's correct. There's a reason, I mean,
Notice
from a
is
corporate
given.
counsel perspective, there's certain dates on when you sign a contract, when you get out of a contract, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why I asked all that.
All right. So, would you all be okay putting a pin in discussion, adding a discussion to the end of today, and then just moving on with our agenda? Because I'm conscious that we've got a
Do you wanna
room full.
move this item to the bottom of the agenda?
No, I'd still like to do the receive and filing right now, because that's just a receive and file, but I'm happy to add discussion to our regular agenda.
Fair.
Okay. Thanks.
Talk about other business.
Sure, yeah. Motion on the table is to receive and file. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
All that, so.
Can
No.
we grab the vote?
Sure, we can prop the vote. Thank you very much.
Did in one other circumstance.
Well, moving on then, Jim, Papa's gone in front of the table.
I know, that's fine.
Hot seat.
We'll see.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members. As we've been discussing the last couple months, the time is now here where lame duck finally begins. Well, it began about an hour and a half ago. So I'm here to let you know that as of right now, there's between 8 and 12 session days scheduled for this month. 3 this week, 3 next week, and 2 following that. So that's 8. But in lame duck, they can add another day. They could stay till Christmas for all that we know. The likelihood of that happening is very small, but in a year of elections like we've had this year, anything can happen, and we need to be prepared for that. Right now, what's going on is at the leadership table, you have the governor, the leadership of the House and Senate trying to hammer out what they're going to do in the limited time that they have to do it, which as it stands now is 8 days. And we've discussed this before, the issue of slim majorities in both the House and the Senate, whereby if one member of the 110 members of the House on the Democratic side, or one member of the 38-member Senate doesn't show up, that can affect as to whether or not they're gonna stay in session that day and vote on something, because if they don't have a majority due to an absence, they can't effectively conduct voting. So be that as it may, with all that being considered, the leaders are still trying to figure out what can get the votes in these few days left. There are a couple of major issues on the table that we've talked about before with respect to the economic development package and the SOAR funding out of the administration, which is a high priority for them. The House, under Speaker Tate's leadership, is still negotiating what they want to have passed, what are their leading asks at the table. And also, Senate Majority Leader Brinks will bring Senate's asks as well. As for the asks of Oakland County, I have been having conversations with Chairman Woodward on a number of issues that he and his people are very focused on. One being supporting part of the grand bargain, as we mentioned before, would also include a supplemental. Commissioner, you probably know about what's going on with that.
I don't.
A recent revenue estimating conference suggests that maybe there's about $500 million left over for this year that the legislature could appropriate in these final days. That $500 million in the supplemental could go a long way in giving incentives to members to support certain projects or certain pieces of legislation to get them across the finish line. So Chairman Woodward asked me to push for an extra $2 million on the Oakland County Affordable Housing Trust Fund, of which the county has spent a great deal of money already in, and could use an extra $2 million in support of affordable housing to try to provide some incentives to restaurant workers and the like coming here.
My glasses on to read my notes. There's a transit authority bill that Wayne County is trying to pass here in the last few days of this session. The Commissioner Woodward wanted us to see if we could add Oakland County to the provision to be allowed to eliminate the opt-out. Whether or not that bill even goes or not at this late time, nobody knows, but they're speaking with the sponsor of the legislation from Wayne County, Representative Alabas out of Dearborn. He does not have an issue of adding our language to that. Also, there's some interests on Commissioner Woodward's part, Chair Woodward's part, to increase the number of road commissioners from 3 to 5 in Oakland County, and just get that ability to do that should the commission so choose to do so. Also, at 10:30 today, in the House Elections Committee, there's Senate Bills 401 through 404, which would create the Michigan Voters' Rights Act. We're also supporting the passage of that legislation in committee today. Whether or not, we're putting in a card in support, the county support of it. Whether or not that bill goes out is very likely. The sponsors control the committee, so there shouldn't be any problem in getting the bill out. The problem is when it gets to the floor, whether or not there'll be sufficient numbers to pass it onto the governor's desk. Also, there's the Revenue Sharing Trust Fund that protects the county's revenue sharing that is passed overwhelmingly in one house, and it needs to pass the other house, and hopefully the governor or the administration has promised to sign the bill should it get to her desk. Whether or not that gets agreed upon in this overall negotiation, is only time will tell. And finally, there's a series of bills, Senate Bills 299 to 300, that deal with wastewater treatment systems, whereby the Eagle Department, Environment and Great Lakes, the State Department, would grant authority to regulate local wastewater systems. So, meaning the state will set the regulations that the county health department would have to follow in order to monitor the wastewater systems in the county. Those bills have been worked on for many, many years, and finally are in a form that are in legislation, have an opportunity to pass it out. It's a heavy lift. I think the odds in a lame duck for something as significant as this to pass are very small. But again, with all of this, you never know. So I'll leave it at that. And if you have any questions for me, be happy to do my best to answer them.
Thank you so much. I know we've got a question from Commissioner Woodward.
Yeah, no, I just wanted, the point, a couple of those, the items, the Wayne County, I guess the transit bill for the opt-in, when we used to have, the way we used to fund transit was through the very same law that Wayne County operates under, and they're trying to be able to accomplish what we did. We did it as a general property levy. This would allow for a transit authority to be the vehicle, so possibly in the future. And so just, if that legislation goes through, which I envision it would, there actually is not just Oakland, like other communities would like the option. There's nothing that's required. We can continue to operate the way we currently do if we want to use an authority structure in the future, that would be afforded. As the road commission legislation, more accurately, every county has the option of 3 or 5 road commissioners, with the exception of one, and that's Oakland County. And so if there's support to strike that language to allow Oakland County to have the same authority as any other county in Michigan.
Any other questions, comments? Commissioner Joliet.
Hi, you brought up funding for the housing trust that the Oakland County would like, and you referenced restaurant workers. Is there any amendments on the floor to the governor's bill for increasing restaurant workers' wages, increasing them to minimum wage?
there are a lot of bills that deal with it, the tip credit and other things.
Yes, I've heard from a lot of constituent restaurant workers specifically that are very against this.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces in that, and like any other bill that's been introduced at this point, there is the ability of legislative leaders to get the bill to be discharged and moved very quickly in order to get it passed, instead of following the normal procedures of committee work and rules on timing. So all of those issues are part of these negotiations right now. We don't know, but the problem is we don't know really for a fact if that issue has risen to the leadership table as being one of the pieces to be negotiated at the end here. It may or may not be. So I just, it's impossible to answer that.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Christensen.
Yeah, I know Representative Arvid's hate crime bill passed the House, I believe, is going to the Senate. Do you have any idea where that stands?
Yeah, it's in committee and he is pushing to have it voted on this week out of committee. I don't know how successful he's going to be in that at this point. Again, it's a timing issue, but there is a rather significant effort on his part and others in his caucus to try to get that moved.
Thank you.
I've never seen anyone push so hard on one singular bill package as he has on that one.
Really?
Yeah.
So, yes.
I was kind of hoping my boss signed off before I did my presentation, but clearly he didn't.
Commissioner Taylor.
Yep, just a quick thought, was the septic tank issue brought under the wastewater, or is that totally separate, the bill?
No, it's all part of it, yeah, it's a massive bill.
Okay.
You're correct.
Okay, that's why I was trying to hear, I didn't hear septic tank.
Yeah, I didn't wanna bore you with the, it's like
Oh, it's not
4
boring.
bills and 800 pages long.
Oh, it's not boring.
But septic tanks is part of it, yes.
That's why we want you to give us the Reader's Digest version.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else for Jim?
I just have a
Sure.
question. What is the septic tank thing? Is that the mandatory inspections?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm against that.
I figured you would be.
It's no secret, Bob.
You're not alone, you're not alone.
Any other comments, questions? No? Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Godspeed.
It's nice to see all of you.
Happy holidays.
Thank you, same to you.
Moving on then to our regular agenda. Clerk's office, oh, you're still here, thank you all for staying. I would entertain a motion to recommend to the board, item 9A, which is a grant acceptance from the Supreme Court, State Court Administrative Office for FY25 Legal Self-Help Center Grant Program, moved by Commissioner Hoffman, seconded by Commissioner Taylor.
Good morning. Still morning? So this is a grant, this is our third application with SCAO, the State Court Administrative Office, this is so low. For a grant for our e-service center, we hire students that are either paralegal students or law students to help those in our e-service center for filing things with our court. My staff is limited in how they can help someone. We have more and more people who are not utilizing attorneys and trying to navigate the court system themselves. And so this has been a very successful program that we want to continue. It's not as much money as we've been granted in the past, but we'll take what we can get and make do with what we can. That's on that. On a separate note, I'm gonna take a point of privilege and just say, in the future, if you're ever voting on supporting legislation that affects elections or anything else in my office, I would appreciate somebody reaching out to me or your local clerk, because all clerks oppose those bills, Senate Bills 401 through 404. Did I say opposed? I did say opposed, right?
You did.
You heard it, okay. They sound great in title, but it's gonna cost a lot of money, so be prepared.
That's good to know. Any questions, comments, concerns? No? Motion on the table is to recommend to the board. Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote? Are those Jeremy's bills? Is he,
One of them is Jeremy's, Camilleri is really the
oh, interesting.
lead sponsor in pushing
What were the numbers?
Senate bills 401 through 404. I've been working on them for months. And they could be great, they're just not there. That costs a lot of money.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your patience, folks. Moving on then, I would entertain a motion to recommend to finance item 10A, which is FY 25, 6, 7, and 8 collective bargaining agreement for UAW Local 889, et cetera, et cetera. It's a 4-line title. Moved by Commissioner Lubes and seconded by Commissioner Taylor. Anyone want to talk about this one? No. Commissioner, are you presenting on this one? Go ahead, sure.
No, not. Okay.
I can if you have any questions.
Go for it, yeah.
I can present it, it probably won't go well. I can read just as good as everybody else. Actually, maybe not, but.
Hi there, Dan Klempner on behalf of, I'm our Chief of Labor and Employee Relations. This is, happy to answer any questions. I'll try to be as brief as I can in light of the long agenda. So earlier this year, you had approved the principal UAW contract for most folks, most members. This is sort of an add-on to that. The courts, as many of you know, are independent employers, so we are required to have an independent contract. There is absolutely no fiscal impact at all. You have already approved the fiscal piece of this, both the wages and benefits in your prior approval of the earlier contract that was brought forth to you in October. I'm gonna try to keep it brief. I'm happy to answer any questions you have in light of that intro, and please feel free, always happy to hear from the board.
I'm not sure you can answer this, but I'm gonna ask it anyway.
I'll do my best.
As part of our item summary, it says a budget amendment is required. I don't see a budget amendment in the packet at all, so I'm not sure what the fiscal changes are gonna be required for this. So that's, and I don't know if you know that answer.
Yeah, for this one, there are none.
Well, the package says yes, so that's what I'm concerned. If you say no and they say yes, one of us
Yes,
is
I
wrong.
understand the concern, but no, but I
Can I let, if there is a yes, I'd like to know that number.
Yeah, it says the attached UAW summary provides more details of these provisions. This request requires a budget amendment as detailed in the attached UAW costing by fund summary.
It's not in there.
It's not.
Not in there. And it's the same for the second.
Good question. Duly noted. Other questions in the meantime?
Mr. Chair, can we just get a better understanding of what a merit max incentive is?
Certainly. So many employees, as you know, have been here for a handful of years. Many of those have reached the cap of their salary schedule, if you will. So this is previously described as longevity pay. We just don't use that term anymore. So for those folks that have capped out at their highest salary grade, salary earning, they get an incentive to stay, and we don't lose that institutional knowledge, and that reflects that. So it's I don't like calling it a bonus, but it's like longevity pay for those folks that have stuck around.
Thank you. Do we know about approximately how many employees will be able to access that $500?
So with this particular group, I think I don't know off the top of my head, but it was obviously more for the prior contract that you have already approved, but for this particular group, I think there are only about 20 to 25.
Thank you.
But I can, if, out of, I think it's about 150 total new members, a little less than that. 100, okay.
25%.
Yeah.
And that's every year?
Yes, yeah, well, and full disclosure, it could go up or
Sure.
down. I mean, if someone retires, but
Sure.
3 more people get to that cap, then it would be a net of, 2 if one person retires and 3 people.
Thank you.
It'll vary every year.
Sure.
Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. I'm gonna let Pam just say one thing real quick here about your question.
On the Schedule A, so we had another UAW contract previously, and fiscal had mentioned that UAW fund summary is a consolidated version of the Schedule A. And so therefore you likely would not expect a separate Schedule A in addition to the UAW fund summary. So I think fiscal is doing something different for these now. Is that? I mean, I can
defer to my
confirm.
prior answer, I'm sorry, I'm not sure.
I'll confirm with our fiscal analyst, but they did approve the item as it is, so. But I'll confirm with them that this is the same case with this one.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Thank you, Chair. Also, I was just reading the resolution, and at the end, it says, be it further resolved that a budget amendment detailing aforementioned changes will be provided in a subsequent quarterly forecast. So there seems to be some confusion about a budget amendment.
Yeah, what we can do is I can caucus with fiscal services and report back.
Commissioner Nelson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. $1,500 payment. What is that? A one-time $1,500 payment
Is that,
provided in fiscal year 2025?
yeah, that would be into an individual's retirement.
No,
I don't think
there's one,
so.
I think there's a $1,500 signing bonus for the contract, if I recall correctly.
Yep, just bear with me. Thank you, I appreciate your indulgence. Oh, I'm sorry, I was thinking about something else.
Sure.
So it's a one-time $1,500 payment upon your approval, of course. That is for this fiscal year. So folks that are in the union at the time, to take it as a snapshot, right? Those folks that are in the union at the time the contract is approved, they get a $1,500 one-time payment.
And that's different than the Merit Max incentive?
That is different, yes, yes.
Not uncommon for contracts.
I'm scared of using the word on this, but yeah.
Any further discussion? Okay, should we prompt the vote? Can't vote on that one, that's his.
Oops.
You have 6 yeas, 2 nays.
Chair, if I may?
Yes.
With comment on my vote, I voted no because I want it on regular agenda. And if we resolve the open question on the fiscal, I will change that vote.
Thank you.
Just piggybacking off of Commissioner Spiz, in the resolution, it said that aforementioned changes will be provided in a subsequent quarterly forecast. I don't know if this is a new policy, but I'd like clarification on that, because I don't really feel comfortable going forward approving these contracts if we do not have the budget amendment at the time that we're voting on the item.
Not sure your concern.
So if somebody can get clarification on the procedure going forward.
This be going to finance?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, we have,
so maybe we can get clarification before they, yeah, it'll be on their agenda for tomorrow?
it'll be on their agenda.
Okay. Alright, so one way or the other, it'll end up on the regular agenda. at the
Okay,
next
well,
board meeting.
okay,
So we'll hopefully get clarification
clarification at
before
that point, gotcha.
then. So, okay. That was A, is correct, 10A? Yeah. Alright, next item is 10B, Board of Commissioners fiscal year 2025, 26, 27, 28 supplemental agreements for employees represented by the UAW Local 889, representing various supervisory and non-supervisory employees within the county. Commissioner Lubes moves, Commissioner Gershenson seconds. Would you like to discuss?
Certainly, in order to, should I repeat myself? Hi, I'm Dan Clement. I want to start from the top. Essentially, it's the same contract. These are separated into two. The one we just discussed has to do with the supervisory staff folks, and then this one will deal with the rank and file non-supervisory staff. I'm sorry, the other way around. Thank you. The contract is essentially it's not essentially. It is the same. I imagine that similar concerns may arise from the board, given the fiscal impact. This similarly does not have any fiscal impact, but I understand the apprehension, as you previously mentioned. Happy to take questions on it, but questions will largely likely be the same, as will my answers, so contract's the same.
So I would reiterate, we probably need clarification both before it goes to finance, assuming it, and then also before the regular board meeting on this confusion about whether there's a budget amendment.
I talked to Cheryl, I apologize, I did talk to Cheryl before, the entire budget amendment was done on the original master. The master one that we did like 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, in October.
So we need some sort of clarification in the resolution, because the resolution apparently has like confusing language referring to a budget amendment.
Right, we'll clean it up.
This item doesn't require a budget amendment.
It says, yeah.
If I may,
Second one
Says no.
it says no, but I don't believe it to be no.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at.
If you read what's being asked, I don't believe it to be no. So there has to be some type of amendment to this.
Okay.
It may not be a lot, but
Resolution.
based on what I'm reading, but you're giving everybody sure amounts, which has gotta be an adjustment. Even if it's a couple $1,000, but.
Alright, so it's just 10A apparently that we need to get cleaned up. Any,
I believe this,
Commissioner Spitz?
my question would be, I would find it hard to believe that there's not a budget amendment for this one also. Or if it's tied into what April said earlier.
And I think
Because you're given additional allowances to different groups and food allowances, so even if it might be small percentage wise, but there has to be something, in my opinion.
Looking on here for the actual resolution, and I don't see it on here.
It's a motion only to approve the attached supplemental agreement.
Okay, gotcha, okay. Any further discussion, questions? Okay, prompt the vote, please. Oops. Back over. Oh, I didn't know he was gonna be gone so long.
You have 7 yeas, 1 nay.
Okay, motion passes.
Chairman,
Alright.
same comment as before. Once we get the fiscal part clarified, I'll switch my vote during our meeting next week.
Thank you. Okay, all right, we are on 11A. Board of Commissioners, interlocal agreements between Oakland County Board of Commissioners and Oakland County Public Authorities for Administrative Support Services. Moved by Commissioner Lubes, seconded by Commissioner Joliet. Do we have somebody presenting on this? No? Oops, lost my agenda here. I lost your agenda.
You're up.
There we go.
I think that. I've been in a lot of discussions. All right, so, interlocal agreement for the public authorities and the administrative support services. So there has been a long-standing partnership with the board staff and local authorities to offer them some admin services to take notes, provide meeting minutes, conduct or assist in supporting with their meetings that they have here on the county campus or even at the Detroit Zoo. And so this would kind of extend that partnership through the next 5 years essentially and continue what we've already started.
Awesome. Commissioner Spitz.
I have a basic question on fees and costs. Yep. Since we set some precedent a week ago or 2 weeks ago on costs going forward for contracts, I'm just wondering why we're only seeing a 3% increase for each one of these contracts year over year versus a CPI plus 6.
I can tell you that we so a little bit of the background is in 2020 when we decided to recoup the costs of the services provided, fiscal services and the board staff came to a conclusion that at a rate of salary plus fringe benefits beginning at $50 per hour for the BOC committee coordinator role would kind of do that. if you look at the cost, the true cost that within the timeline of providing 20 hours of service or 20 hours of support service, with those amounts that have increased at that 3.4%. If you based upon that, and then at the 2025 salary schedule for a BOC committee coordinator, we are actually at that CPI plus 6%. So let me throw some math at you here.
Please.
At 37, so at the highest rate for the committee coordinator, at the 84 step, the hourly rate is 37.4149. You multiply that times the fringe benefit rate for a full-time employee at 33.9%, you come out to roughly 50.98. Add in that CPI plus 6%, you're roughly right around that 56 timeline for 2025.
I understand your math.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand your math.
Yeah.
Because has fiscal services actually given us a true up number of what number should be, just like they did for the police contracts 2 weeks ago? Because I'm sure that number doesn't include the 8% SG&A that we added to that, and it doesn't include a couple other percentages that would have been added to that. So my request would be, I would like fiscal services to review that number to make sure it's accurate based on their new calculation process that they're going through for contracts. And I'd like to see the CPI plus 6 added to all future years outside of 25. So 26, 27, 28, and 29, I'd like to see CPI plus 6 added to that based on the 2025 number that fiscal services comes up with. So that is my motion.
Oh, all right. Is there support?
I'll support.
There is. All in favor of amending this to include a CPI plus 6, you said?
And fiscal services to confirm that true up number for the rate, just
Okay.
like they did in the previous contract for the sheriff's department.
Got it. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Could we prompt the vote on that one?
Mr. Chair, can you clarify the vote we're taking?
I believe, although it's interesting because there isn't a resolution, so I'm not sure what
Right.
I'm amending.
Yes.
It's a what now?
It's a motion only resolution.
Oh, I can do
Yeah,
that?
we can add the language.
Okay.
So it's a motion to add.
Correct. Add plus 6%,
Yep, I gotcha.
I believe.
Is that,
CPI plus 6.
is that
CPI plus
correct,
6.
Commissioner?
But I'd also
CPI.
like fiscal services to confirm the 2025 number. Because I understand what Mr. Andrews did, but I don't believe that's what fiscal services is doing for all the other contracts. So just to be consistent in what we're doing with all of our contracts, I think that we need to review that number.
Okay,
I think that's fair.
okay. Sequentially or
Do 20,
simultaneously?
just like they did with the police contracts, right, the sheriff's contracts. Do the number for 2025
Sure.
and everything after 25, it's CPI plus 6,
Okay,
because that's what we did in the sheriff's contract.
Okay.
Just to be consistent.
okay,
Was what I don't necessarily agree with it, but that's what they put out there already.
okay. Do you need to reprompt some of that or? Okay.
Just my bad.
You have 5 yeas, 4 nays.
That motion passes. So I'm not sure how that becomes amended, but consider it becoming amended.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments,
As
or
amended.
concerns?
I just wanted to piggyback, I think it is important that we have a consistent process, right? So I do appreciate you bringing this up because we did have some extensive conversations leading into obviously committee today, different contract. But nonetheless, I do believe that it's important that we are consistent in process. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Anything else on this item?
Pardon? Do we need to vote on that
As amended.
As amended.
So that is the motion on the table then. Could we prompt the vote on that as amended?
As amended.
Yes.
What are we doing?
As amended.
Motion is amended.
Okay. Good. Thanks. Issues.
Gershenson,
Yes.
you have 8 yeas, 1 nay.
Thank you very much. Yeah, goes to the board.
Mr. Chair, I think you got a hand raised.
Commissioner Woodward, I'm sorry about that. I am not in the practice of seeing hands up there.
Oh, boy.
He was on for a minute, but he might have stepped away.
No, I was gonna weigh in the last discussion, but never mind. We'll talk about it later.
Moving on, Commissioner Erickson Galt, you had said something, I think, under your breath, but LCG belongs more in other business, not just tacked
Yeah,
on
why
to the
don't we use other business
To use other business.
Okay,
to discuss
cool.
that?
Cool. So that concludes our regular agenda. Moving on to public comment for items not on today's agenda, or on, doesn't really matter, anything under the sun. Anyone from the public wishing to address us, you've got 3 minutes. State your name, your residency, and then your timer starts.
Hi, my name is Jody White, and I came here back in September, and I have to really compliment you guys. I'm from Wayne County, and how you guys are protecting Oakland County residents is amazing. I love that you guys are reading this stuff and what you're doing, and I think more citizens should really be at these meetings and learning how our cities are run. So I'm really in awe today, because last month in September, I wasn't as happy. But last week, we came to your meeting that was supposed to start promptly at 9:30, but because of the sheriffs, and I'm seeing everybody wants their concerns done, we came to speak, and we were not able to speak because it just took forever, but I ended up having a jury trial upstairs in the circuit court, and my brother-in-law was found guilty for all the crimes that he's done to our family. And you would think that would be a win, because you would think that's what we wanted in probate court, because we've been here since 2012 in Oakland County with probate court. But it wasn't really the process that was supposed to happen. My brother-in-law had a attorney that was supposed to be guiding and helping and directing. Probate court is just as complicated as you guys here as a business people. If you don't have that knowledge, you could be misguided and misled. My brother-in-law is looking between 3 years to 20 years in jail when he had an attorney, and the attorney had an attorney, and then both attorneys had a probate judge. I'm asking somehow, because I really am learning the process. You guys really don't care about the Citizen Task Force, but I would like you guys to care about it, because I know many of you do. And if you ever are in probate court, you would want a family advocate out there, because like I said, our family's devastated. Thanksgiving wasn't like I would think it would have been, because we're not excited about what happened. The old winery building that's in Farmington, it's our building. It is being wasted and dissipated. Before my father-in-law died, he signed a document saying, please don't let it be wasted and dissipated. We had court documents. We followed the process. I'm a realtor for 41 years. I'm all about contracts and following through and making sure everybody is doing their job, because we would never make a paycheck if we don't follow the rules. So realtors, I think, are like one of the many people that we don't make a dime and work a lot and maybe make a paycheck. So my working for free is simple, because I've been doing it for 41 years, and hopefully once in a while I sell a house. But our winery building isn't really wasted and dissipated because of the family. It is because of the probate court system. And we're just asking for more support from you guys as a whole, as I come regularly to continue to explain things to you, because the amount of research that is being done, I'm looking at the one gentleman, I don't want to use his name, although his name's all over public records. He stated in court, the attorney, he has 240 clients. He works exclusively for Oakland County. He only gets his jobs from the 4 judges up there. And now his wife is kind of coming after me for slander. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, this law firm has ruined my family. In closing, this law firm has ruined my family when they were given a role to be a special fiduciary, a trustee, and a co-trustee, special fiduciary, and our personal rep, because the court gave them that role too. So that's all I want to say today, because really I've got to go up and do other things, because we just got done with the court hearing, and we have to see, why did only one co-trustee get in trouble, but not the other co-trustee, who's an attorney, co-trustee, personal rep, all court ordered and works out of this county. And you guys have a special list. When I say you guys, I know you're the leaders, but in the court process, there's this list of names that you have to pick from. And you might wanna look at this list, you guys, is all I'm saying, because I think it would be very beneficial for the citizens to be able to trust this list that is put out by Oakland County. So
Thanks.
there'll be more next week or next month. Or there's another meeting though for public safety, correct? Right after this?
Right after this,
Okay.
yes.
So thank you for letting me speak on it.
Yep, thank you. Anyone else on the record?
Me again, I'm sorry. Do you want me to restate my?
Yes, please.
My name is Chelsea Jerzak, I'm from Judge Warren, and I'm from Commerce Township. This just came in while we were in this meeting. At a 9:58, we had another, I just got an email from the director, we had another teacher resign effective immediately for Little Oaks and the toddler department. And also, I did verify the numbers with the director. I'm not saying HR lied or maybe just was misinformed, but there are 97 children enrolled in Little Oaks right now. 72 are clients, which means Oakland County employees, and 25 are community employees. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else for this public comment? Seeing none, I'll close that public comment. Moving on to other business, any other business before the other business? No, all right. So I will start this discussion with, I'm not sure exactly what to do. The contract has been signed, so I am kind of at a loss for useful paths forward. From my vantage point, I see our paths being delaying payment, which would make us a negligent contracting partner, delaying execution, which would cause tumult, or termination, which starts the entire process over. And that I don't love any of those three options. And I'm not saying that the current status is great. Obviously, we had a long discussion about how it was not great. I just think we're in a bind. So I see your hand up and then I'll.
To me, timing is of the essence. The longer you wait, what you said, the more and more it comes true. Right now, the Learning Center hasn't taken over yet, so we're not missing any payments from them. As long as we still keep Bright Horizons under contract, we're good, everybody should be covered. Continuing to lose teachers is a very big concern, right? And that's why I wanted to see a transition plan, being fair. I would have hoped to see that some of those teachers would have been migrated over to the new company. But if I already have 3 resignations, my concern goes higher that that's not going to happen, which means we have a bigger concern of moving forward without any mishaps, I'll call it, right? Any mistakes happening, and not on purpose. I'm not saying anybody to do it on purpose, but the more and more change you have, the more and more difficult it becomes to do something, right? So that's my concern. So that's why I'm pushing to get some of this stuff out front as soon as possible. So the sooner we can get a transition plan, I know April said this week, the better. You know, maybe that'll squelch a lot of my concerns and maybe some of the others' concerns. Because right now, I have a lot of concerns.
Commissioner Gilliam.
I concur with Commissioner Spiz, just to sum up pretty much what everybody has said. As a working parent, I was a working parent, and our children are our most precious commodity, and their security, knowing when you have to drop them off, when you have to go to work, you drop them off at someplace safe. So the transition concerns me a lot. But with that being said, the issue at hand, is there any way we can table this to go to the board meeting? And then you can't.
This isn't going to the board meeting.
It's not going to,
There's
it's
no
not a
action
vote.
from this committee.
Yeah, so there's no way to get this on the agenda or even communication at the board meeting for discussion? Because that would buy us time.
Commissioner Woodward has his hand raised.
Yeah, I think we have a contract that's been approved. Like the receive and file, the committee voted not to receive and file. It's merely a communication of an update where things are. It's not authorization of the contract. It's not approval of the contract or anything. The contract has been approved. So getting a transition plan, the HR has communicated that we'll have that by the end of the week, and that will be distributed, I imagine, to all members of the commission. I just don't, this question, the option that we have before us is to begin the process of canceling the contract. I have also reached out to the executive office. The executive office is not supportive of canceling the contract. So as far as, in practice, it's a moot point. This contract's in place. There is no appetite to delay it. And again, it was approved going through the normal process. getting a transition plan, some of the other conversations about what we should be looking at exploring going forward, all of those things can happen. But I don't know from a motion perspective, like, unless there's people who want to begin the process of canceling the contract. But I have spoke to the executive office. They will not support that, and it's a moot point.
And to clarify, with the hypothetical termination of this contract, we have no contract then come January 1st.
Correct.
Commissioner?
Oh,
I thought you had.
Agreed.
No, it's
Sorry.
the fact, I don't disagree with what the chairman's saying because technically process has been followed. It's unfortunate that there was mishaps along the way and essentially HR didn't have to be here in the first place. That's a hard one for me to swallow with the conversation we're having right now. I have grave concerns. I think it's just a bad move. Even, in my head, I know there's some of us who've had the discussion of even trying to consider, well, if there is no interest of the current contractor to extend any services, which there are understandable variables on why one wouldn't want to do that. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. But at the end of the day, the fact that we left out one of the most important aspects of any big change, and that's a transition plan, I'm still trying to process that because you would think that that would be the very first and foremost document that we would work on and share with the parents throughout this process, right? So I hear what Chairman is saying. I'm stuck. There is no great way forward. What is disappointing is that here we are once again with our backs against the wall, having to make an important decision. I'm tired of having my back against the wall, making important decisions. This is not okay. This should not be accepted. And quite frankly, it's embarrassing.
Discussion. Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair. It's definitely a mess. It came to us as a regular agenda item. I learned late yesterday that it wasn't even a regular agenda item and wasn't even sure what to do with it at that point because I thought we were somehow going to have some say in whether this contract got approved. I voted for receiving and filing simply because that's essentially all we were doing is receiving and filing communications. I'm troubled by this process. This process has seemed very messy from beginning to end. And I'm also troubled by the fact that one of the key elements, this is intended to be an employee benefit. The county has no reason to run a child care center other than as benefit to employees. And so employees should have been a key part of this process from beginning to end. And I wasn't part of it, so I don't know how much say employees had, but it kind of seems like they didn't have nearly enough say in this process. And so I'm very concerned with that. That being said, I don't see any way for us to get involved in this process at this point other than to simply demand that going forward with everything, with the transition, that it get a whole heck of a lot smoother. And that these parents be supported and that we try to get as much as possible, have retained staff and retain the benefits, because this is a benefit that we want to provide to our employees. So it shouldn't be this acrimonious. And I'm not sure why it got that way. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone in particular, but the UAW fight wasn't nearly this acrimonious. So what I would like to see going forward is that we have a better process for purchasing and contracts in general, and that we do a lessons learned after the fact to try to understand why this went off the rails and why it didn't proceed as smoothly as we would like to have seen it. Why we have this substantial group of employees who are very, very upset with what's going on with their benefits. So that's all I have to say about it.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward, your digital hand is waving around. Is that a digital hand?
Oh, good job.
Oh, okay.
Nope, I'm good, thanks.
Sure. Commissioner.
Just, I would like to request, Mr. Chair, that we receive communication. It sounds like by the end of the week, there should be communication and a consensus of whether or not Bright Horizons will extend into January, potentially February, as well as a transition plan be sent to
Sure.
committee members.
Emailed around COB Friday. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
See a lot of head nodding.
Yes. Okay. Thank you all. Yes.
Just one final comment.
Sure.
For other business. Since this is our last meeting, and I know committees will change next term, it's been a pleasure. I may or may not be on committee with you next time, but I look forward to continue to work with you at the full Board of Commissioners. Thank you. Merry Christmas to all.
Merry Christmas. This has been nice. Yeah, appreciate this, Commissioner.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a really tough meeting for sure, but I don't want this meeting to end without acknowledging all the work that HR has put into it. Their attitude of accommodating or responding to every single request that has been made of them. I don't think this is about dissing our HR department. I think there were a lot of lessons to be learned. I am maybe one of the only former school teachers on the board, and so I get the sensitivity of this for sure. And I do have faith that of course I am a faithful person, I do believe that there will be lessons learned, but I feel that our HR department acted to the best of their ability on this and that there was really no malintent, that this was a decision that was very well thought out and researched. And I'm sorry to feel like it's such an us and them kind of a situation, because I don't feel that was administration's objective.
And to piggyback off of you, I do think that there are a lot of lessons learned on this. I think that our purchasing policy moving forward should be looked at, and I hope that the lessons are not just learned by HR, but are learned by economic development and facilities and sheriff's office and anyone else who engages in contracting. Because I think those lessons should be shared throughout the county, because we have seen this kind of sensitivity bubble up in other departments too.
Well, and I also want to remind commissioners that all the contracts are in the book that we receive for budget hearings, and if there's any that you want to be pulled, that is our objective. And I had one more point. Oh, and on the 250,000, we've gone over this for years, the fact that we don't see contracts below 250,000, and if that's something that the committee wants to look at next year, next year, then we definitely should discuss that again.
Commissioner.
Just for clarification, so in regards to our purchasing policy, in the statement of the $250,000, right? So if it's anything under $250,000, it doesn't have to come to the board. Where I get confused with trying to understand just that concept, the not to exceed amount is $525,000. That also corresponds to the number in the back of our budget book. That exceeds the $250,000. I mean, math's not my brightest subject, but I mean, can somebody explain, because I over the past couple days, that's what I've heard when I learned now it's a communication item, is because they didn't have to come back via the purchasing policy language. But $525,000 exceeds $250,000. So can somebody,
can we get a corp counsel opinion on that?
like how does that work?
That is a great question. I don't think I
Maybe
have
make
the
it a request
ability
to
to
the chair of the committee.
I can tap in here for a second. So, I mean, to be clear, we do not approve all contracts north of 250,000. We adopted a policy, particularly as it relates to construction projects and things like that, $250,000 and up has to come before us. If dollars are not appropriated in the budget process, then all of those. So all the contracts as it relates, for instance, the Pontiac project, every one of those is coming before us because those dollars, while reserved for the project, have not been appropriated, and we are appropriating them as firms are selected and going through our process. So anything that would be outside the budget process would comply. Construction projects would comply. Professional services that are budgeted and appropriated, again, if we have not pulled those items that are at the back of the budget book as part of the annual appropriation, we are in essence giving our permission to release those funds as part of the budget process. That's a high level. I'm sure that we could bring our director of purchasing in and he can go into a deeper dive on that. But I don't want, everything north of 250 does not come before us because we have appropriated the funds and those contracts are attached to the overall budget book when we approve the budget on an annual basis.
So Chairman, if we didn't, let's say we didn't appropriate that money during the budget hearing or the budget process, then they would have to come back.
Correct.
I see. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely, and I'm going to say it's been a pleasure being your chair. We started this with Gary McGillivray as the chair, and RIP to Gary. He was a great mentor in the short time that he and I knew each other. So thank you all. The time is 10:47, and I'm adjourning this meeting.